dropping off some Whataburger way out here. Industrial. I want to eat a Blue Man. Blue Man, baby. Blue Man. There's some sleeping dozers right there in the semis. Bless you. All right, well, that's a wrap. And I don't know how much you watch the Please Subscribe show, but first of all, please subscribe. We really would appreciate that. We're a new show. We just broke 500 subscribers. How's it make you feel, Linda?
Awesome.
Yeah, she's really happy about it. I told Linda, I said, listen, if we get to 500 subscribers, we got something for real. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was trained as a professional actor all over the place. Texas, California, New York City. I even trained at the famous Actor Studio Drama School. One of my peers was the one and only Bradley Cooper, who was in Hangover. Now, the only thing I ever did was where I worked with Jim Carrey shoulder to shoulder in The Majestic. And I did do some Hollywood work, and then I went to New York and studied with James Lipton and the Actor Studio. So there I learned all kinds of stuff. Sense memory, emotional recall, all kinds of stuff that Lee Strasberg taught back in the day. But also, we learned other things too, like LcSbanD technique and how to talk clearly, which in this vlog I explored different characters and stuff, especially when I was doing roadie. So it's not always about, acting's not always about having like a crisp, clear voice, I mean, look at Marlon Brando, but it is, it's not about, what was put this way, acting's not about diction, okay? People don't go to the theater just to listen to words only, okay? So, but it is important. You want to be heard. But regardless of that part of the story, that's just only my, that's a little side of me, that's just a side about training, like what I've done. Also, I worked with Diane Salinger from, she was in Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. She was Simone. She played the waitress in Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure. If you know anything about Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, one of my favorite movies. Probably one of my favorite movies, for sure. Big fan of pop culture. I'll tell you about what vloggers are like. Big fan of Out in the Woo, even though sometimes I have to, take a break every once in a while. Big fan of Jordan the Lion and Scott on Tape. Also like Breck Roll. So I like watching other vloggers. Learned a lot from each of these vloggers. I know there's a lot of vloggers out there today, but I was always taught to go out there and do it yourself, not like completely copy. But I was also taught to be a really good, kind of artistic borrower. One of my teachers told me to, a good artist is a good thief. I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I think you have to find your own originality and everything that you do, and that'll come out in your character. See, I met Linda, was it like 2 years ago?
Yes.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, I met Linda 2 years ago, and I was doing all this, but I wasn't doing like a show where you edit a show. I just found out about Jordan the Lion first, because what happened was I was kind of interested in Helter Skelter, and my first wife, her name is Sarah, she introduced me to David Lynch. We went to an Inland Empire premiere at USA Film Festival, and I got to talk to David Lynch about script writing, and I really wanted to make narrative movies. Some of my heroes are like Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, Alfred Hitchcock. Big fan of Orson Welles, all the great classics. I'm learning more about European theater, or European cinema. But I'm a big fan of cinema. I like one of my favorite actors, Marlon Brando, but also like Gary Oldman. Big fan of Gary Oldman. Of course, Robert De Niro. I think he's like one of our best actors. And I got, one time in my life, I got really involved in faith-based films, like just watching Alex Kendrick movies and during my baptism, because I got baptized in the Baptist church. But originally, when I first started, I guess my adulthood, I was first sprinkled in the Episcopalian, I was sprinkled in the Anglican. It was the Anglican church. Same thing that Henry VIII created. And I was sprinkled and anointed in the Anglican church first. They're very similar to Catholic, only they're they're ultimately Protestant because Henry VIII divorced the Catholic Church. So so I'm kind of a Protestant, although I do have family that are Catholic. My mom is not a big fan of the Catholic, so I'm a big fan of the Protestant, I guess you could say. But I still like Martin Scorsese stuff, and I know that he almost became a priest and all this stuff. But my favorite film director is David Lynch, and I've just come to notice this over the last couple of years by watching cinema over and over again. I'm talking about American director. I am interested in other directors like Fellini. I'm a big fan of Fellini. I like 8.5 and Satyricon. Big fan of Fellini. And Ingmar Bergman. I used to have a bio on Ingmar Bergman. And another guy named Chinaski or something. I'm studying him. I didn't even know he existed. And, I like all filmmakers, really, just like I like all music. I'm even a fan of Kevin Smith and Clerks and things like that. But ultimately, I came to a conclusion. I tried to make a short film called The Projectionist, and I used some Dallas actors. And without the budget that I had, I just came to the conclusion I wanted to put it on hold because I really liked it. I remember reading an article Martin Scorsese had written about killing your darlings. If you can't get it completely right, and be patient. So we were going to do this whole thing like Quentin Tarantino did Reservoir Dogs. He was going to make it himself. So we started to just say, well, we'll do it ourselves. But then like all these expenses came up, and people were still trying to work and survive and stuff. So I put Projectionist on hold. It was a script I wrote. If you want anything about it, I'll email it to you so you can read it. I want everybody to read it. I just really like The Projectionist. It's one of my favorite scripts I've written. I've written a lot of scripts, so I do a lot of writing. I've done this since I was like 17. So I've been doing this struggle that I've been going on has been more than 30 years, 3 decades of struggling in art. So I've learned a lot from these different places like Hollywood, New York. I did come back home after 9/11, so I experienced 9/11 too. I was right down the block from 9/11, like I was on 21st Street when 9/11 went down. So I decided to leave New York and start off, and I really wanted to do a feature film. So I am posting some stuff tonight about that desire to still do like a feature film, a narrative, and not just stick to documentary. But what I realized after dropping The Projectionist and having to move on is I started looking around YouTube, and I thought, well, these guys are doing really well, like Adam the Woo and Jordan, and even Breck Roll and Scott on Tape and stuff like that. I thought, what are they doing? So I started studying them. Like I must have watched a lot of hours of Adam the Woo, and then I realized that I needed to get a better device, and I had a Samsung 8, and like I got a lot of views with my Samsung 8. Like Linda and I, when we did Beach Ball hurricane scene, we've gotten thousands of views for that. It got a lot of attention. I did that with the Samsung 8, and in the rain, we did a little kind of comedy session, a little skit. I thought, I gotta get something better. And plus, my Samsung was the battery was running down. I was trying to work off the Samsung because I work off this phone that I'm talking on, and it was a nightmare. I mean, it was probably one of the worst moments of my life. But I also realized too, just about 3 years ago, I was married with pretty much 3 children. And one day I came back from Uber driving because I used to work at a bank. I worked at a bank for about 4 years at a state bank. And I was Uber driving, and I came back, everybody was gone. My wife left me. She just left me. She did leave a note the first time. She left for 2 weeks, and then she came back. And then the second time she left, she didn't even leave a note. She even took the clock off the wall. It's a cool lake right over there. I mean, it was scary. And so I got so upset, I even went to the police station, and they said, don't worry, she already called and all this stuff. So I started having kind of anxiety, really bad anxiety and stuff. I got to really do something. So I started writing a lot of music on my guitar. I continued to Uber for a whole year. I moved away from Irving because I was living in Irving at the time. Moved to Carrollton. And after about a year or so, it was about a year or 17 months until I met you?
Yeah, a year or so.
Yeah, it was a year and how many months?
I believe it's 17.
17 months later, Linda appeared in my life, and we met on POF. If you know what POF is. She called me through the POF app, which I usually just leave on. And she called me. She was the only one that ever called me, through the POF app. And then we went to an Arby's. We met right there in the height of the COVID. So we were wearing masks when we met. And then we just, she knew what I was doing. And next thing you know, I graduated over to an iPhone, and they have iMovie. So I started playing around with iMovie, and this is the coolest thing ever. And I was in heaven. This is the coolest thing ever. I just couldn't believe it. So I started doing these little videos, and I started watching Adam the Woo, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. It's unlimited amount of creativity in this. And I really started watching a lot of David Lynch movies, and then I bought the whole Twin Peaks Return. Started watching like Twin Peaks Return just to get ideas on shots and maybe music and stuff. I'm just now exploring GarageBand, so I'm starting to put GarageBand and doing my own music completely. I used to choose music from the iMovie, and I decided to do my own music. And so we started a band. It was called the Linda and Cole Band, but I changed it to the Cole and Linda Filmmakerband, also known as the Cole and Linda Band. So we do music too. We've done a lot of stuff on Drooble. We had a lot of songs on SoundCloud. And then I dropped my SoundCloud account, and they will let me keep the demos. But you can go to the SoundCloud and check us out. But anyway, I just want to give you a rundown. Please subscribe. I'm doing this. This is all experimental. Stuff I'm learning, and just wanted to let everybody know that I'm doing my best to try to kind of have some type of entertainment, some kind of quality that's somewhat entertaining. I know that I watch some of these vlogs, and I do find Adam, like for example, Adam's very popular. He's got over 560,000 views, and I see what he's doing here. He's networking here. He's talking to these vloggers. He's going to Disney World. Now, we don't have any plans of going to Disney World, but we thought about it a few times. Maybe more like Six Flags over Texas or something like that. Oh, now the Carpetbagger, yeah. So I had a chance possibly to vlog with the Carpetbagger, but I got into like an email fight with his wife, and so that fell through, and I thought I had come close to possibly maybe vlogging with him. That would have really stepped up my game, because he's like 600,000 subscribers or something. I don't know how many he has. Like a lot of subscribers, and so I almost became like a really big deal. Now this has happened to me many times in my career, of like almost becoming like a very big deal. The first time it happened was when I ran off to Hollywood, and I worked with Frank Darabont in The Majestic. I was actually directed by Frank Darabont. If I would have stayed in Hollywood for like 2 years, I probably would have ended up on a television show. I even got offered Jeremiah, which went to Luke Perry. But by the time I arrived in New York City, I had gotten offered by James Lipton to be part of the Actors Studio. And that first year, we saw everybody from Johnny Depp to Sir Ian McKellen to Ben Kingsley, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, all the way to Richard Gere. And I got to talk to all these. I can keep on naming actors. That second year, I would have met Martin Scorsese, okay? But I got suspended because I kind of went nutty. But that would have been really cool, because I've been able to ask him some really cool questions about Taxi Driver, because it was one of my favorite movies. But anyway, I just thought I'd give you a rundown. I'm also kind of a writer, so I've written some books. You can follow in the description below, in the description, and I've got a lot of stuff that I've written off of Fan Fiction and Fiction Press, so I'm self-published. Also, one of my favorite writers is Cormac McCarthy. Okay, this guy's honking at me. I'm going to try to get over. Speaking of Cormac McCarthy. And The Passenger is something that I'm reading right now, which I think is like a really cool, kind of visually cool. Everyone says they couldn't turn it into a book, but I'm let this guy's kind of nutting out. Right? You can't really control these guys. The six-wheelers are kind of a... But anyway, I'm also a big Stephen King fan. I used to live in Maine, so I used to live in Maine. So I've had kind of a crazy life, but yeah, I lived in Maine for a while, and I wrote a book called Escape from Maine, which was about my plan to pretty much escape Maine. I did write another book called Chin, and this was pretty much when I was meeting Linda, and that was about me getting punched in the chin by a Burger King employee. But it's set in the height of COVID-19, so it's a little bit about COVID and experiencing life through a delivery driver. Somewhat fiction, somewhat true. That one's a pretty cool read. And I don't know, writing and acting and doing all this stuff kind of brings me to another filmmaker that I like, is Paul Auster, who's also a writer and also a filmmaker. But there's a lot of things that you can do with the craft, of writing and acting and stuff. And I don't really consider myself just one thing, Like Ethan Hawke is kind of a Renaissance man. I'm also a big Sam Shepard fan too. I like writing. I think actors should sit down and write a book, that kind of stuff. But also like it being fiction too. It doesn't have to just be a memoir, I'm reading Matthew Perry's memoir too. It's pretty deep kind of stuff. But I think the actor should go out and write a book, and then maybe try to make a film or something like that. One of our great actors of all time was Robert Shaw, he wrote a lot of novels and stuff. He was in Jaws. great novelist and great actor too. So I don't think the actor's crazy if he tries to write a book and do all that kind of stuff. But anyway, a lot of things are going on in my life because I haven't seen my kids in like 3 years. So I feel, my mom one time called me selfish because I was writing, like songs, and there's some truth to that. I mean, I could have put it all down and become a full-time father. My mom had some wise statements to say about it, but I felt so empty. And I just wanted to say this last thing. As a father, even though I love my kids dearly, I felt if I didn't express myself and I continued to pretend to be fulfilled. Are you okay? No, you're getting kind of hot. If I didn't, I didn't feel completely fulfilled. So I felt like a calling, and like I had to follow this calling. And a play that I did was called John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. You ever read John Bunyan? And it's about this guy who he's a man who's kind of in a way forced to leave his family and go on this adventure called Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. He wrote it in jail because in Church of England, they would arrest you if you went 5 years. I'm sorry, not 5 years, I'm sorry. They'd arrest you if you went 5 miles from the Church of England church and evangelized. So if you spoke of Christ 5 miles from the Church of England, then, you'd be arrested. And it happened to John Bunyan. And he wrote Pilgrim's Progress while he was in jail, in Bedford jail, if you ever know anything about John Bunyan. And that was the only book that was given to a lot of people that colonized our country. The new frontier was a Bible and a copy of Pilgrim's Progress. And I played Christian and I played Apollyon, but Christian is a very theological, kind of philosophical role, especially in theology. And so I thought that my calling was being cut short in reaching people, and I thought that I could do more. So I ventured off, and I just hope you understand that I'm not trying to do this for the glory of fame, but sometimes, as Samuel Beckett says, you can be damned to fame, unfortunately. But anyway, I'll say about it later. Check out Pilgrim's Progress if you ever get to read it. It's a really good read. And I did the play, I think, 2 times. Also played John Newton. So kind of give you a wrap of kind of my resume. But also I was raised in kind of the Keller area as a young kid. And I was raised in the kind of the country. But anyway, y'all have a Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you later. See how long this is. 17 minutes.
It's gonna be okay. Excuse me, we don't have to do this all the time. What's wrong with me? Hey, kitty, how are you? Oh, it stinks. Oh, it's stinky winky. Alright. Go ahead, do your thing. Shoot! Guess I watched it last time for some reason. I don't know why. It wouldn't have been for macaroni grill. Maybe it was for Common. Or I knew to get my shirt. No, Common already given me my shirt. And the purple and white shirt. I don't know. Excuse me real quick.
Oh. Okay, kitty. Okay. Time out. All right. Calm down. Method cat. Okay. All right. Boy, he got into it too. All right, kitty, that's enough. Take a break. So I'm training my cat Kung Fu. He's pretty good. I'd say about intermediate level. Soon, he'll be a master. He'll be able to join us. Right, kitty? Very good, kitty. Now, one hand. You must learn self-control, kitty. I understand. You're mad at master. We'll get you some rice and chicken.
He's still going at it. But anyway, I'm doing a damage report. You can see here, not too bad. I expected him probably to do way worse. Just a couple claw marks, but he'll soon be ready. Right, kitty? Right? Look at that self-control. Very good, kitty. You're learning. Very good. You just give him good reward. Right?
She's a good Petty. Okay, calm down. All right, that's enough. This is a very nice tree. And look at the plane. You can see the plane right there. See? See the plane? Look, boss. The plane. The plane.